Thank you, LaDonna, for those welcoming remarks. And good morning from Washington, D.C., and good afternoon and evening to those of you watching from around the world. I want to start by thanking the organizers of the World Matters Protocol Conference for having me as a speaker today. It is an honor to be part of this distinguished group of panelists. So I'm going to share my screen. So let's begin with two images from the 2018 Winter Olympic Games in Pyeongchang, South Korea. The image on the left includes former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, who was named as head of the presidential delegation to the opening ceremony of the Games. VP Pence is seated in the stand of honor with his spouse, the President of South Korea, and most notably, the North Korean delegation, which includes the sister of Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. They are watching as the United Korean team of both North Korean and South Korean athletes enter the stadium under one flag. VP Pence and his spouse are seen sitting in an act of defiance towards the North Koreans, while all the other dignitaries are standing. Protocol customs dictate that when the country athletes enter the stadium, all dignitaries shall rise in respect of the host. The picture on the right is from 2 weeks later. It is of Ivanka Trump, who was named as the head of presidential delegation to the closing ceremonies for the United States. Mrs. Trump is seen here standing with the president of South Korea and his spouse and following the proper protocols. Clearly, we took note of what had happened at the previous opening ceremony and what they had signaled to the host and made alterations. So we have these two contrasting images, one to pin an act of compliance with protocols and the other in violation. So why does this matter and what do I want you to know? Today I'll be discussing the protocol considerations of the Games, focusing on the International Dignitary Program and highlighting the American perspective. My goal is that you'll leave here with a better understanding of why protocol matters in this arena and the role it plays in making the Games a success. But first, let me give you a brief introduction to who I am. As noted, in the beginning, my name is David Francis. I am the Senior Director of Government Relations for the United States Olympic Committee. I've been with this organization for over a decade, and I've had the honor and the privilege to work 5 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And part of that role is I've managed multiple presidential delegation visits. So while I'm not a protocol person, I have a lot of experience working with protocol professionals in this arena. And I'm very excited that I'll get a chance to do this again for a 6th time when we bring America's best and brightest athletes to Paris, France next summer for the 2028 or 2024 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games. So let's begin with the question of why protocol is relevant to the Games. The answer is protocol has multiple purposes. Mechanically, protocol ensures that each country is treated equally. The Games are a multinational event with over 200 countries represented, and it is important that each delegation receive equitable treatment no matter their size or strength. Smaller countries with 1 or 2 athletes deserve the same treatment as powerful and large delegations such as the US, China, and Germany. Protocol also ensures that the Games run smoothly and ensures that the rules of the Olympic and Charter and Olympic host contract are respected. The principles of fair play, respect for your competitor, and excellence. Protocol can also serve a symbolic purpose. It can show that the world can come together for one common purpose, that being promoting peace and human understanding through sport. And it can allow athletes seeking common ground to bridge cultural and linguistic differences. Lastly, protocol can allow the Games to serve as a platform to normalize relations between nations by providing unofficial reason and location for international leaders to meet and begin a dialogue. For the remainder of my time, I'd like to provide an inside look into how protocol interplays with the Games and the Team USA experience. First, we must acknowledge that there are overlapping protocols at Games. IOC rules are paramount, so IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and the IOC Protocol Guide take precedence at all official functions and ceremonies. More nuanced is the International Dignitaries Program, which determines regulations around dignitary visits. And finally, there is a protocol followed by individual countries when creating a framework for foreign relations, For us, we follow the protocol of the US Department of State. Because of this overlap and the potential for conflict, it is important that there is a clear understanding on the part of the US government officials to which protocols and rules apply and within which context. More on this in a little bit. So let's move into some specifics. 1 year before the opening ceremony, Paris 2024, the organizing committee, will issue what is known as the Chef de Missions Manual, which details the protocols for the Games, including the International Dignitary Program. The International Dignitary Program provides a protocol for dignitary accreditations and the accompanying entitlements. There are 4 categories of dignitary accreditations, each with specific entitlements. These may include complimentary ceremony tickets for the dignitaries and vehicle access passes. If you look at the categories, the 4 buckets are Sovereign Head of State, which receives a +1 accreditation for a guest, 2 for staff, and 1 for the head of diplomatic mission. The head of government and the head of state receive a +1, 2 for staff, and similarly 1 for head of delegation. And for countries that send their sports minister, they receive 1 +1 accreditation. And then there's a 4th unofficial category, known as the honored guest. And to be candid, this is created mainly for the United States. This category received the same entitlements as the head of state, head of government, and the sovereign. Now, I mentioned that it's mainly created for the United States, and that is because it is rare that our head of state attends the Olympic or Paralympic Games. And this is because most of the Summer Olympic Games fall during our presidential elections. And so because of timing and scheduling, it is impossible for the president to attend. Rather, we will receive either the First Lady of the United States, which is custom, or a high-ranking cabinet official, such as our Foreign Minister or Secretary of State. So if you look at the categories, there's no default for the United States because we don't have a sports minister. And so they've created a honored guest category, which we use every single games. Once we establish our accreditation category, we move on to the planning of the visit, factoring protocol considerations. Since protocol dictates that the National Olympic Committees invite the dignitaries, the US OPC will take the lead road in communications between Paris 24 and the US government. Generally, each visit is a total of 3 days. We plan and manage 4 delegations, 4 ceremonies, and a host of other events. We'll work with the White House, State Department Office of Protocol, and staff at the US Embassy in Paris to ensure that the presidential delegation is in compliant with IOC rules. For example, there's a little rule on bans of speeches of any kind in venues by government officials or public authorities. We want to make sure that we flag these little nuances so that our delegation members understand what is permitted and what is not. It is also important that they understand the IOC rules because this protocol may differ from the standard procedures our government is accustomed to following when attending international meetings and events. Therefore, we're constantly re-emphasizing the principle of equitable treatment. This may come as a surprise to many of our government officials because it is different from the expectations that I think that we receive when we travel around. I should note, exceptions are made where State Department protocols conflict with IOC rules and where security dictates that we operate outside the normal channels. And I'll give you an example. This comes into play during the opening ceremonies. Traditionally, there is a mode of transportation that takes all of the dignitaries in one transport vehicle or several buses to the stadium for opening ceremonies. Our head of delegation will never travel to the opening or closing ceremony using the transport vehicle for dignitaries. Rather, our government negotiate better bilaterally to use our own vehicles and give vehicle passes for our motorcades. We also provide the context of the traditional cultural customs of the games, and there are many. And we do this so that our dignitaries are aware of what the expectations are when they attend. So I'll give you an example, which is the side sport of Olympic pin trading. This is a form of gift giving. If you don't know what Olympic pin trading is, I recommend that you Google it. It really entails every country and every delegation and every organization sponsor has their own form of pin. and it is a highly sought after activity for individuals to exchange and receive and give as many pins as possible. And so we make sure that our dignitaries, if they don't have their pins made already, we make sure that they have them in place for the games. Once the protocol is contextualized, we'll work through the visit details to create a blueprint for a successful visit. We'll create a detailed schedule from the beginning to end that includes opportunities for members of the delegation to engage with Team USA athletes, tour the athletes village, and attend competitions, host international stakeholders at private gatherings, and arrange press gatherings. Other details may include securing prime event access tickets and guaranteeing that the head of delegation is appropriately seated in a stand of honor. And if you go back to the beginning of my presentation, of the photo of the vice president sitting in front of the North Korean delegation, that was a point of contention at that opening ceremony. But out of respect for the host, we had really no choice, and Vice President Pence was seated directly in front of the North Koreans. So in summary, the philosophy and ceremonial aspects that surround the Olympic and Paralympic Games distinguish them from all other international sporting events. With 206 participating nations, the Olympics and Paralympic Games provide a unique opportunity for the world to come together in one place for the purpose of sport and peace. Protocol matters. It is essential to the functioning of the Games, and it ensures that the principles of Olympism are respected. And with that, I will conclude my presentation, and I will leave the floor open for any questions.